Okay.
Perfect. So I'm just going to go through the training as normal. Like I said, ask me any questions that you want. So I'm going to get started by going to an opportunity. And for time's sake, I already created the opportunity because that's where everything is we want to start with DocuSign. So I'm going to go to opportunities, which is the hand shaking on the left-hand side.
Okay.
And then I'm going to click all opportunities. You could go through each individual stage of the listing or buyer's funnel if you want, but for me, it's just easier to go to all opportunities. And then here's the opportunity that I created this morning. And here we have the property address, the last name of the clients, and then listing. Here you can update any of the information as you learn it, depending on which side of the transaction you're working on. But to get started with DocuSign, we'll click on the Documents tab within the opportunity. And then,
hold it. Where was the doc? Oh, go to Documents. Okay. Yep.
yeah,
okay.
On the Documents tab. And then in the right-hand corner, you should have a big button that says Start a Transaction.
Yeah, you know, I went to one that's already started. I wonder if I should go to one that's not started.
So yeah, well, so if you've already started one, then it should say Go to Transaction. But keep in mind that if you started a transaction in .loop, you can't switch halfway through the transaction to DocuSign. You'd have to finish out that opportunity within .loop or manually upload the documents from DocuSign. Now, the main benefit of using DocuSign and making sure that you click Start a Transaction here in the opportunity is linking the command system to that room in DocuSign. And what that allows you to do is seamlessly upload documents from DocuSign into command. So it saves you 2 steps of having to download to your computer and then manually upload into command.
Okay.
So, but to be mindful is that you have to click Start a Transaction within command. If you start a room directly in DocuSign, you won't be able to link it to the opportunity retroactively. So always make sure you click Start a Transaction. So I'm going to click Start a Transaction and it's going to open up DocuSign. One thing to keep in mind, if you have a pop-up blocker on, it may prevent this window from opening up. So if you're having trouble, just make sure that there isn't a little red dot in your URL bar or like a little red square that says that there's a pop-up blocker. So I'm going to log in using the same email address that I used to create my DocuSign account from within command. And we'll just give it a second to log me in. All right, so now it has put me in my room in DocuSign. And while I try my best not to do a one-to-one comparison of .loop, the way to think of a room in DocuSign is the same as a loop in .loop. It's just going to be that space that's really for that transaction or for those clients. And everything's going to live in that room. So when you hear me say room, just think, okay, it's just like a loop, same type of functionality. So I'm in my room here. You can see in the top left-hand corner, it has the name of the room, which is 4578 Main Street, Start Pots Listing, which is the same name as the opportunity in command. You can change this name if you want to, but it's just nice to have it the same so you know that the two are linked. And then below here is the ID number. In DocuSign, there is the capability of emailing documents directly into a room. That's kind of DocuSign 2.0. But I just want to point that out. If that is a feature that you want to take advantage of, you would use this ID number here.
Okay.
So for today's training, I'm going to act as if this is my first time in DocuSign. So before you do anything else in DocuSign, we have to confirm your NRDS ID number, and that's going to give you access to the GAR forms.
Nick, 1 second. So I wanted to be able to follow along. So I'm going to go. What I already had already started in DocuSign. So I have to start a new opportunity and I do a new one as a sample.
Yeah, you could do a new one as a sample.
And
or I mean, if you've already started one in DocuSign, it's fine. You can click and follow along there.
I mean, no, it's already done in .loop. That was my
point. Yeah. If it's in .loop, then you have to start a new one in DocuSign.
So, so I really start in contacts first. Is that, and then?
Well, I mean, you can go to opportunities and just create a new opportunity. You just have to use a contact that's already in command.
Okay, that's what
So
I
did
want.
you just add yourself or whatever?
Hold on one sec, because let me just get caught up. I was just going to use this first. Okay, so I'm going to do this. And then I'll use A's. This is spelled wrong. Hold on. And then go to opportunity. Let's do it as, are you doing a buyer or a listing? What did you do?
I did a listing just because as part of this training, I want to show how the clients will fill in a listing or the seller's property disclosure.
Okay. I know this is slowing you down, but hold on. Then I'll get caught up. All right, it won't let me do it right away. Okay, I'll just follow you. Okay.
So before we do anything in DocuSign, we need to confirm the NRDS ID number to confirm that you are a realtor. And that gives you access to the GAR forms. There's two ways to confirm your NRDS ID number, and I'll show you both of them.
Okay.
The simplest is when you're in the Documents tab of DocuSign. If you come up to the top right-hand corner where it says Add, click Add, and then select DocuSign Forms. And this window will pop up with these two logos. We'll want to select the Realtor logo. So we'll need it, and then it's going to ask us to put in our 9-digit NRDS ID number.
Okay.
I don't imagine that you remember that off the top of your head because I have only met two.
Well, I have it. I see my account number, so I see that.
Yeah. So you can come here to find your NRDS ID. And then you can use your last name, email address, and or real estate license number to find your ID. So I'm going to use my last name and my license number. And then here's my NRDS ID. So I'll just copy this. And I'll come back into DocuSign and I'll paste that here. And now I need to select the Georgia Association of Realtors. So I'm going to select this from the drop-down menu. And I'm just going to scroll all the way to the bottom because the Georgia Association of Realtors is like 12th from the bottom. I'm going to select GAR and then click Validate. Now it's validating that I'm a member of that of Georgia Association of Realtors. If this is your first time confirming your NRDS ID, you'll have another pop-up window here for the Georgia Association of Realtors, and you'll click Accept those terms and service. That's option number one for confirming your NRDS ID. Option number two is in the top right-hand corner. You should see your initials or a picture if you've uploaded one. And if you click on that and go to Preferences, and then in the menu in the left-hand side, click on Integrations, and then scroll down just a bit. You'll see where it says NRDS ID information. And if this were blank, it would have a link over here to the right that would say Find NRDS ID. And you could click on that, and it would take you to that same window where you could use your last name, email address, and license number. And again, you'd select the Georgia Association of Realtors and then click Save Changes. And that would confirm, and that gives you access to all the GAR forms.
So I should have access to the GAR forms now. How would I check that?
The easiest way to check it was if you'd go to the top right-hand corner where your initials are, and then click Preferences.
When you're saying I have my picture and I have the Keller Williams logo, I don't see initials.
So if you have your picture, that's perfect. Click on your picture.
Okay.
And then select Preferences.
Okay.
And then on the left-hand side where it says Integrations, click on that.
Integrations at the bottom. Okay.
And if you scroll down just a bit, you'll be able to see your NRDS ID information.
Okay. Now, what's NWMLS membership ID?
So that, I think, is for the Northwestern MLS.
Oh, okay. So it has nothing to do with us. Okay.
So is your information in there?
Yes.
Perfect. So then we are good to go.
Okay.
So now that we've confirmed our NRDS ID information, I'm going to go back into the room that I just created. So I clicked on Dashboard and then Recently Viewed Rooms. I'm going to go back into that room. I'm going to click on Documents because I'm going to put myself right where Command would drop me into the DocuSign system. So before we start adding any documents to a room, I always recommend that you go to the Details tab because the details tab is where you're going to put in all of the information about the transaction and your clients, and that's the information that will auto-populate into your GAR forms. So I'm going to click on details. You'll see here is the name of our room. And then here's a bunch of information that I can fill in about the property. And then on the right-hand side is where we put in information about our sellers or our buyers. So I'm going to show you, you can see seller 1 over here on the right-hand side, and then seller 2, listing agent 1, which is myself. And if you scroll down, listing agent 2. Now I want to point this out because you just keep on scrolling. And then here's buyer 1, buyer 2, buyer agent 1, and buyer agent 2. It goes down pretty far. And the reason I want to point that out is because I don't want you to think for whatever reason one day that it's gone or missing if you're working with a buyer and you can't find the information. Another thing I want to point out as well is you'll see here that DocuSign actually pulled in the contact information for my clients out of command, which is really helpful, but you always want to double check it and make sure it's correct.
Okay.
So I want to start by updating the information here. So I'm going to click edit, and that's going to make all these fields here editable, and I can change any of the information. And I always recommend to start at the top of the page and work your way down and fill in all the information that you have at the time. Now, knowing that throughout a transaction, some of the information may change, you can update it accordingly throughout the process. So I'll select MLS ID. I'm just going to fill in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't need to worry about origin of lead. Property address, what I do, 4578 Main Street, Atlanta County, Fulton, State, Georgia 30342, property type, residential detached, year built. I'm just going to select 2007, special circumstances, there are none. List date, so we'll list it today, the 28th. Expiration date, we'll just do October 28th, so we'll give it 2 months. Original listing amount, I think I did 415. Current listing, 415. Perfect. And if I scroll down, I don't have any offer details yet. Don't have any bid, highest bid confirmation, closing details, or any of that. So I can leave that all blank for the time being. And then I'll come over to the right-hand side and double check to make sure that my client's contact information is correct. So here we have Tony Stark as seller number 1. Now I want to point out here that when you're working with your clients, and if you're working with more than one seller, you'll want to ask them which one of the two wants to be responsible for filling in the documents. So the seller's property disclosure, community association disclosure, and or lead-based paint, because whoever is listed as seller 1 is going to be the one that has the rights to fill in that information. So you want to put whoever that person is here. So seller 1 is Tony, pulls in his phone number and email address. At the bare minimum for here, all you need is your client's name and their email address. So scrolling down, then we have Pepper Potts and Pepper's email. And then continuing to scroll down, we have listing agent 1, which is myself, and it pulls in my information. Now I'm gonna point out here where it pulls in company. So it pulls in Keller Williams Realty First Atlanta for me. I'm gonna delete Realty because Keller Williams First Atlanta will fit in the sales better. And I know for the Atlanta Perimeter office, I believe Lynn said that you can do KW Atlanta Perimeter, and that would suffice, and that would fit within the designated fields. So I'm just continue to fill in the rest of the information for my office, city, Atlanta, country, United States, state, Georgia, postal code 30342. And then I don't have a co-listing agent. Now, if you want to, you could go fill in some of the information about the buyers or the co-op agent here. But I want to point out now, and I'll point it out again, I never recommend that you send any documents for signature to a co-op agent from within DocuSign. I always recommend that you send them as a PDF and have that agent sign it in their own system. So now that we've gone through, we've updated and double checked all of the contact information for my clients, myself, updated the information about the listing. I'm going to click Save in the bottom right-hand corner. And now everything's been updated. So now we can go to the Documents tab and we can start adding some documents to the room. So to add documents to the room, well, actually, before we do that, I want to point out that DocuSign, unlike .loop, is for you to manage any which way you want. Lynn is never going to look at your folder here. So I know in .loop, we had very specific regulations on how Lynn wanted our loops to be organized. Since compliance is not done in DocuSign, you can have this organized as clean or as messy as you want. So I do know people that like to have folders. So if you would like to create a folder, in the top right-hand corner, click on Actions, and then you can click Add Folder. And I'll make a listing agreement folder. Click Create. And now you'll see we have a new folder, listing agreement, and then we have our Room Docs folder. Room Docs is going to be the folder that all the documents default into when they're either added to the room or when they're completed for signature. And you can easily move them to the other folders as you like. So now to add documents, I'm going to click on the Add button in the top right-hand corner, click Add, and then DocuSign Forms.
Hold on. For some reason, I lost. Were you showing your screen? Were you showing your screen, Nick?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, mine just says Zoom. It doesn't have.
Oh, it shows that I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah, I can see he's sharing. Look around and see what you have open, Jeannie. It may be that you just clicked on.
I can't see his screen anymore.
You go, do you see?
No, I have a brother who knows how to use this. It's good to have sons and brothers who understand all these things.
So to add a room to to add a document to our room, we'll click on the Add button in the top right-hand corner, and then select DocuSign Forms. So for myself and the agents at First Atlanta, we'll leave this as DocuSign Forms Library, and then select Georgia Association of Realtors. And this is going to pull up every single GAR form that's in DocuSign. I think there's about 180 of them. And then from here, we can search for the forms that we want. So I'm going to use the exclusive seller listing agreement. So I'll just start typing in exclusive seller. I'm going to make sure I pick out the right one because there's a commercial version and a non-exclusive. So I select exclusive seller listing agreement. In the bottom left-hand corner, it says one form selected. That lets me know that that form is selected. I also need to add the seller's property disclosure. So I'll just scroll through here.
I got out of that.
And then we see seller's property disclosure exhibit F301. And then we want to add the community association exhibit. So we'll click there. And then just for example, I want to show you the purchase and sale agreement today, since that is probably going to be one of the most important documents that we use. And I always recommend that if you can start to learn the numbers or the form numbers, it makes it a lot easier to search. So I'll click and I'll add that as well. Now, if you are with Atlanta Perimeter, Stacy has already gone through the process of adding groups for you, which makes things very simple. So to do that, where it says DocuSign Forms Library, you would select DocuSign Forms Group. And then that would pull down a list of different groups that she set up for you for buyers, sellers, commercial, I think there's 8 or 9 different groups that she set up. And all the forms that you would likely need are going to be in that group. And you can just select the forms that you want out of those groups. I'm going to select Add, and it's going to add those documents to my room. And as I mentioned before, they're going to default into the Room Docs folder. Now I can move them, my listing agreements, into the listing agreement folder. And there's 2 ways to do that. When you roll your mouse over a document, a radio button appears in the top left-hand corner. You can select that. And then whenever you select a document in DocuSign, a toolbar appears at the top. And you can roll your mouse over to see what the different icons are. And you can select Move. And you select the destination of a folder in current room. And then select the folder you want to move it into. So listing agreement, and click Move. And it will move the document into that folder. The second way to move a document is to click on it. To click on the document and just drag it into the folder you want. And I'll move this, the property disclosure. And now I've moved my documents into the respective folders. So I'm gonna get started by filling out the forms. It's very simple, very similar to .loop. We just kind of start at the top and work your way down and fill in the information. All right, so we'll see here that it started to fill in some of the information for me. And this is the information that it pulled out of the details tab. So we'll just go through and fill in the information that we need. So tax parcel ID, so I would add that here. And then our legal description, we would want to attach an exhibit here too. And then our listing period, we want to start, we would have to type in the date. Now, in .loop, they did have the calendar feature. We don't have that in DocuSign. So I always recommend just typing out your date. And I got some great advice from another agent that said, always recommend actually typing out the month, just so there's never any confusion about dates. Broker's duty is a list price. It pulls in the 415 price that I had added in the details tab. And then negotiation, seller does have the right, the authorization to assist. And then marketing, you know, fill in FMLS, Georgia MLS, and KW LS. Now for today's training, I'm gonna go through and fill in this information. This is not a training on what the correct information to fill in is. I just wanna highlight how to fill it in. So I'm gonna use abbreviations. I'm probably gonna use some incorrect verbiage. Please default to Lynn and Cynthia and Stacy on what to actually put in your contracts. So I'll click on commission. So I negotiated a 6% commission and I agreed to share half of that with the co-op agent, protected period, 90 days, independent contractor. So you see, you just kind of start at the top and just fill in all of the information and then select we do not offer dual agency or sub agency. So all of these fields here are mapped for you as the agent to fill in. So you can scroll down, keep scrolling, and then you can select any of the brochures, and all of the brochures are loaded into DocuSign as well. So you can select all the ones you want. You have your legal description, Exhibit A, and if you want to put in any special stipulations, you can type those stipulations in here. You can add some more. You just type them in. And scrolling down, you'll see where it has added our clients' names and email addresses directly from the Details tab. Now, unlike .loop, in DocuSign, you don't sign a document directly here in the Documents tab. We create an envelope to send for signature, and we'll walk through that in just a few moments. This is really just making sure that all the information in the document is correct. So the name, email address is good to go. Here's my information. Now, you'll have to go through and manually fill in the rest of these fields. Hutch knows that this has been a big stressor for a lot of agents having to fill in this information every time because it always stays the same. They are working on it. Oh, let me click in that correct box. Just fill in the information. 33313, licensee phone number. And I recommend fill in as much information as possible, even if it seems silly to put in another fax number. All right, so now that everything's filled in, I'm gonna click Save and Close. All right, so now my seller's or my listing agreement is updated. Now I'm going to walk through the seller's property disclosure. So I'll open that. All right, so then you'll see here that it has filled in the information on the address, which is great. I don't need to put an exhibit number yet because it's not a part of the contract. Just make sure that's all correct. And then when I scroll down, I'll see all these fields. but they're all blank and there's no radio buttons or anything for me to select. That's on purpose. That's because the disclosures in DocuSign are mapped for seller one to fill in. Us as agents should not be filling in any of these disclosures. We don't want to take on that responsibility, because if we ever put anything in there that's incorrect, we don't want to be held responsible. So you'll notice that there are no fields in here for you to fill in. Don't be alarmed, because that is correct. So once you double check it, make sure everything is good to go. It pulls in our clients' names correctly. You can click Save and Close. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the community association disclosure. We don't have an offer date yet, and you'll see all these fields are blank. I can't do anything here. Same thing as the seller's property disclosure. This is all mapped to seller one to fill in. So I can click Save and Close. So now I want to walk through the purchase and sale agreement, and I understand from an actual logistical standpoint, as a listing agent, you're probably not going to be filling in the purchase and sale agreement, but since it is such an important document, I just want to walk through it very quickly. So I'll open that, and it's going to be the same process as what we did for the listing agreement. We just kind of start at the top and work our way down through all the different fields and fill in the information as needed. So we'll just start with the offer date. Type in August 28, 2020. And then we'll go through here and fill in the information as is. So we'll include our tax ID number, which I'm just gonna make up there. Our legal description, it's attached as an exhibit here too. Our purchase price paid by the buyer, we'll just, let's do 410. We're gonna ask for 5,000 in closing costs. Date of possession shall be September 28th, 2020. I don't know what day of the week that is. And we will take possession at closing. Holder of the earnest money will be First Atlanta. Closing attorneys, Campbell and Brandon. Earnest money will be $4,150 within 3 days. Now, one thing I want to point out is you'll notice here for the purchase price, I included a comma. For whatever reason, DocuSign does not save commas in the purchase price. It will in the closing costs and I believe in the earnest money amount, but not in purchase price. So when it's not there after you save it, don't be alarmed. Our inspection due diligence, we're going to request 10 days. Lead-based paint was not built prior to 1978. And then our selling broker today, we'll just select Carrie Norman, and they are representing as a client. Material relationships, NA, and then we'll give this offer till 12 p.m. on August 29th, 2020. So you see, it's super easy just to fill in all this information. It's the same process as .loop. All right, just make sure everything is good to go. Now, if for whatever reason, if you forget to fill in something, I can show you how you can add a text box or check box in the envelope. But just, we want to give everything a double check so it is good to go, because it's preferred that you don't do that. So I'll come over here, I'll do my seller's property disclosure. I'm going to make that Exhibit A. We'll do community association disclosure. We'll do that Exhibit B. And then I'll just have those for now. Oh, and then I need to have my legal description. I'll make that C. And then you can type in your special stipulations here in this box, the same as we did with the listing agreement. Now, one thing I want to point out, this is as big as the box is that you can put in for special stipulations. I don't know why DocuSign only made the box this big and they didn't use the whole space. I know some agents have a whole laundry list of stipulations they like to include with every contract. There's two workarounds, I guess 3 workarounds that you could use to take advantage of this full white space to fill those in. One, you can fill in what you can here, and then you can use the additional stipulations page, and you would check that box there. You can wait, your option 2 is you can wait to the envelope, and we can add a text box there, and we can reformat the text so it's a little bit smaller font. Or third option is you can set up a template And you could have all those stipulations already pre-populated here for you. So I'll just type in a few stipulations. So I have those there, and I'll continue to scroll down. And now we're at our client's information. So we want to double check that this is correct. So we have my client's name, an email address, client's name, and email address. Now, for me personally, I don't like to include my client's contact information on any document I'm going to share with a co-op agent. I'm sure 9 times out of 10, that co-op agent will be very respectful of the relationship that I have with my clients, but I don't ever want to put it to chance because it is my fiduciary responsibility to look out for the best interest of my clients. So my initial thought here, or initial reaction, would be to delete the email address here out of this box. Do not delete the email out of this document. If you delete any information or change any information from a pre-filled in box or field in a document, it will delete that information out of the details tab. So if you delete the email address here, it deletes the email address out of the details tab. And then when you go to send your envelope, there's no email address for your clients to send that document to for signature. So I will show you how you can hide your client's email address in the envelope, and we can black it out so the co-op agent won't have access to their information. So scrolling down, we'll just have to come back here and finish filling in the information for us over here. So just add this really quickly. And I've been typing the same information in for so long, I'm getting quick with it. And then everything from here else is good to go. If you wanted to fill in the co-op agent's information here, if you wanted to make your offer as strong as possible, you can. But for time's sake, I'm not going to do that today. So I'll click Save and Close.
So where .loop would automatically have done that, this DocuSign does not.
That is correct. Now you could add that buyer's agent information or the co-op agent's information in the details tab, which is fine. And then that would auto-populate most of those fields. But I say that with the asterisk of do not send any co-op agent documents for signature in DocuSign. So now that we have filled out our documents, we now need to send them for signature. And there's 2 ways to do that. The first is when you roll your mouse over a document, the radio button appears in the top left-hand corner. You can select that. And then, like I said earlier, whenever you select the document, a toolbar appears in the top of the screen. And you can select DocuSign, and that'll take you directly into an envelope. The other way that you can create an envelope is by clicking on the Envelopes tab. And in the top right-hand corner, you can click on New, and this will create an envelope for us. So we'll just start at the top of the envelope and work our way down and fill in all the information as needed. So envelope name, so we'll do 4578 Main Street listing agreement and purchase and sale. The envelope name is for internal purposes only. It's so you can keep track of all the documents that you send out for signature. So make sure you name it something that you'll be able to remember. Now we'll add documents to the envelope. So I'm going to click on room documents because I want to add the documents that I've added to the room. And I'm going to add all the documents here. So the community association, listing agreement, purchase and sale, and seller's property disclosure. Now at the moment, I only have 4 documents in the room. So it's pretty easy just to go through these and select these 4. But as you go through a transaction and you have more documents in a room, every single document will appear in this list. So just be really mindful that you're selecting the correct document. So I'll click on Add Selected. And then for myself and the other agents at First Atlanta, for our affiliated marketing and wire fraud prevention documents, those are added as templates here in the envelope. At Atlanta Perimeter, Stacy has added those to the Documents tab, so you add them in the room. So I'm going to click on Use a Template so I can add those here in the envelope. So I click on Use a Template. Then I'm going to click on Shared with Me. And that's going to pull up all the documents that the MCA office has shared with me. We'll give this a second to load.
Now, but you said where do we go for Keller, for Atlanta Perimeter?
Atlanta Perimeter, you would add those in the room the same way that we added the GAR forms. all the affiliated marketing wire fraud documents are there for you to add. So for me and First Atlanta, if you scroll through here, you'll see we have affiliated marketing and wire fraud disclosure, a buyer version, and then I'm going to scroll down and there's a seller version of the same documents. You have to make sure that you select the right version of those disclosures, depending on which side of the transaction you're working on, because the signature fields are mapped accordingly. So I'm going to select the seller version and then click Add Selected. And it's going to add those two templates to my envelope. So now it's added everything. So here you can see a list of all of our documents. Now you'll notice all the documents are in alphabetical order, but I want to put them in a specific order. So I want the seller to sign the listing agreement, seller's property disclosure, then community association disclosure, and then our other disclosures before actually signing the purchase and sale. So if you want to rearrange the order of signing, you have to do it here in the envelope. So to move a document, roll your mouse over it, click it, and then drag it to the position that you want. So I'll move the seller's property disclosure because I want that to be the second document signed. Then I'm going to move the affiliated marketing in front of the purchase and sale, and then wire fraud in front of the purchase and sale as well. So now I have listing agreement, SPD, CAD, affiliated marketing, wire fraud, and then purchase and sale. You have to reorganize or reorder the documents here because this is the last time that you'll be able to reorder them. You are not able to do it on the next screen when we add signatures. So now we have all of our documents in the correct order. So I'm going to scroll down and we're going to add recipients to the envelope. To add recipients to the envelope, click on Add Recipient. And you're always going to want to select pre-tagged roles. If pre-tagged roles is an option, select it. All of the documents in DocuSign, all those fields and signature fields and input fields are mapped to specific roles. In order for those documents or for your clients to have permission to fill them in, they have to be selected as pre-tagged roles. So I'll select pre-tagged roles and this pop-up window will show up. And then I'm going to come over, I'm going to come to seller one, and I'm going to select the client that I want for seller one. So I'll pick Tony. And then I'm going to come for seller two. I'll select Pepper Potts. And then for listing agent, I'm going to select myself. Now your name will be in there twice because you'll be in there as an agent owner of the room automatically from DocuSign. And you'll also be in there because you've added your name as the listing agent in the details tab. So I'll select myself. And you're gonna you'll be like, oh, I can add the buyer and the buyer's agent here. Do not add anyone from the co-op team here in the envelope to sign anything. The reason is, if let's say it's like, oh, I can just go ahead and send this purchase and sale document to the agent to sign. Well, let's say you're negotiating that document and the agent's not gonna sign a document you're negotiating. The document will never show as a completed signed document. Whereas in DocuSign, if you open up a document that was halfway signed, it would show the signatures that you had. But in DocuSign, sorry, in Loop, if you had sent a document for signature and half the people signed it, it would show those signatures. In DocuSign, it only ever shows you a signed document once every single person that's been added to the envelope has signed. So just include yourself and the people on your team. So now that I've selected the pre-tagged roles, I click Add Selected.
Does it tell you who you're waiting on to sign?
Yes.
Okay, because like last night, the wife had signed everything and the husband left out one agreement and I had to kind of follow him to get that done.
Yep.
So, okay.
So now that we've added our recipients, there's a fair amount of information here, so we'll walk through it all. So on the left-hand side of each one of the boxes, there is a number, and it's going to default to 1. And that means every single person will have the option to sign this document at the same time. But we can set a signing order. So for this document, because seller 1 is going to be the one that's responsible for filling in all the information, I want to have Tony be signer number 1. And then I want Pepper to be signer number 2 because I want her to follow up after Tony so she can review what he fills in for the disclosures, make sure it's correct, and then sign. And then I want myself to sign last because then I can make my listing agreement binding when I go to sign it. So to edit the signing order, just click in the box and then type in the number of the order that you want for that signer. So added Pepper as 2, and then I want to update myself as 3. Oh. And you can see now it's put Tony, Pepper, then myself. If you need to update the email address here, you can. And then to the right, you have a drop-down menu with different options and responsibilities. It's going to default to needs to sign, but if they just need to view it, it'll send them a copy, or it needs to view, they can just view it. Let's say you want to include someone to receive a copy. This is going to be probably most useful if you're sending a document that's about to go binding and you're just waiting on a couple signatures for a document to go binding. You can add your closing attorney or your lender partner on here, and they can receive a copy of all the binding documents as soon as everything's signed. So it'll kind of save you a step, but you probably want to give them a heads up, hey, we're about to go binding, be on the lookout for an email from DocuSign. And you can also specify recipient as well. To the right, we have a more drop-down menu with 2 options. One is to add an access authentication. So if you work with a client that is hesitant about electronically signing documents for the fear that someone may hack into their email, and they may go under contract on a home that they didn't know because they didn't sign it, you can add an authentication code, and you can just click add authentication code, and then you can type in whatever code you want to provide there. And for this, I would say, hey, Tony, I'd give him a call and say, Tony, when you go to sign your documents, be sure to type in the code 12345, and then that will allow you access to start signing. So it's just one firewall that you can put in to prevent anyone from signing documents that is not intended to sign. Now, I don't want to include that, so I'll click discard. And then our other option is to add a private message. So this will send a message just to this one individual. So for Tony, I want to send a message that says, hi, Tony, please be sure to fill in all the fields on the seller's property disclosure and community association disclosure before clicking finish. Thank you, Nick. Now, Tony will get this message, and only Tony will get it since he's the only one that will be filling in any of the fields. So I just wanted to provide this quick reminder here. So we've added all of our recipients. Any questions about recipients? All right. So scrolling down, we'll add a quick message to the recipients. The email subject is going to default to please DocuSign, but I recommend you leave that in there just so that way your clients know that there is an action for them from DocuSign. But then I recommend that you add the property address and then which forms they'll be filling out. Now, I imagine that you'll be talking with them throughout the process, so they'll be expecting different documents to end up in their inbox. So we'll enter an email message and I'll say, hi, Tony and Pepper. Please review and sign the documents for listing your home. Thank you, Nick. So now that we've created our envelope, we've given our envelope a name, we've added all the documents and we put them in the specific order that we want them signed. We've added our recipients as pre-tagged roles. We created our signing order, and I've added a message, and now click next in the top right-hand corner. And this is going to take us to the editor within the envelope where we can double check to make sure that all the signature fields are added correctly. We can add any missing signature fields or any additional text boxes or check boxes that we may have missed previously. So there's a lot of information on this page, so I want to kind of walk through the overview before we actually look at any of the info. So in the top left-hand corner, there's a drop-down menu, and it's going to show each one of the recipients of this envelope, and it's going to have a color circle next to it. That color, if you click on Pepper, will coordinate with the standard fields here, the same color. And that's to let you know and help you more easily distinguish which fields are mapped to which recipient on all the documents. Below here are all the different fields that you can add. So you can add a signature field, initial, date signed, bunch of different options for you there. Over here in the middle is going to be a preview of the document, and it's going to show all the places for them to sign. On the right-hand side, we have thumbnails of the documents, so you can just quickly go to a specific page. And one thing I really like about the thumbnails is that on the pages that have signatures or information to be filled in, it puts these little tabs here. So you know, okay, on this page, there are places for signature, and each one of them are color coordinated depending on who is responsible for signing where. So now I recommend that we go through the documents and make sure everything is good to go. So let's kind of start scrolling at the top, work our way down. Everything's good. Oh, just for time's sake, I'm going to scroll through to the last page here because I want to make sure that the signature field's in the correct place. We have our date signed. Scrolling down, there's my name. Now, since this is a listing agreement and I set myself up to be the third and final signer, I can add text boxes here so I can make this listing agreement binding immediately once I sign it. So to do that, I'm going to click text box. I'm going to add a text box right here. I'm going to reformat it. I'm going to size it. And one thing you'll notice is when you open up a standard field, the right-hand side turns into a settings menu. And I'll leave this checkbox as required field because that means that when I go to sign it, the system's going to stop me to fill in this information before I'm allowed to click finish. And then another really cool thing with DocuSign is that you can right mouse click and click copy and then paste. And I can copy that standard field, so I can just move that right there. And I'm going to leave that as required. And then I want to add the date signed field right here. So that way it'll automatically add the date. So I can scroll down. Here's the seller's property disclosure. Now you'll see here, all of these fields are mapped to yellow. That's because all these fields are mapped to Tony as seller 1. Tony is going to be the only one that's allowed to fill in any of these pieces of information. Now, one thing I want to point out is that these are not required fields. So if I click on the field, you'll notice here, this isn't required, which means that the system is not going to stop for Tony to fill in this information. What will likely happen, especially with some of our more technology challenged clients, is they're just going to skip right past all of this information and click sign, and then they're going to sign an empty disclosure. To get past that, a little trick I learned is that if you click on this field here, and then you select required on the right-hand side, the system is going to stop Tony to fill in what year is the main residential dwelling constructed. So he's going to have to fill in this information, and then it'll be easier for him to go through the rest of the document to click in and fill in the rest of the fields. So scrolling through, you can see all of these fields are mapped to seller 1. And this is why I said earlier, you want to make sure that you confirm with your clients which one wants to fill in the fields, because there's a lot of information here that they're going to fill in. Double check and make sure the signatures are good to go. We'll scroll down. We're going to go to the community association disclosure. Now, again, this is going to be the same setup as the SPD, where all these fields are mapped to seller 1, but none of them are mandatory or required. So for the community association disclosure, so I don't know which one of these types of associations exists, so I don't want to make any of these required. But what I can do is I can come here to the name of the association, select that text field, and make this required. And again, the system will stop here to make sure that Tony fills in this information. So I'm going to scroll through, make sure everything else is good to go. The initials are in the right place. Now we have our affiliated marketing. Now for whatever reason, the signatures didn't add here, so I'll just manually add them. So I'll click on signature and then add that here, and then I'll include date signed. And then I need to add it for Pepper, so I'll select Pepper from the dropdown, add signature, and date signed. I'm good to go. Now I'll scroll down to the wire fraud. And for whatever reason, the text box moved, so I'll just move, or the signature box, so I'll just move the signature box up. And then we have our full name and date signed, and that will fill in when they go to sign. And now we have our purchase and sale agreement. So we'll just go through here, make sure everything's good to go. And it looks like for earnest money, excuse me, I forgot to add a checkbox, but the earnest money is going to be paid by check. So what I want to do is I want to go to myself in the dropdown. So I'm going to select myself, and then I'm going to select checkbox from the standard fields. and I'll click on that, and then I'll come over here and I'm going to put the checkbox over the option for check. And then what I want to do is I want to go ahead and check this, so that way it's checked properly when my clients are reviewing the purchase and sale agreement. And I'll come over to checkbox values and then select checkbox, and that will check it here for me. And then I also want to select read only. And by selecting read only, that means that this is no longer an editable field when it goes for signature.
Can you go over that one more time? You moved over to the checkbox, and then when you went to the right side, what did you click on?
I added the checkbox, and then on the right-hand side, I would go to checkbox values, check the box here, and then I also made it read only.
Where was it read? Where does it say read only?
If you go to the top of the menu on the right-hand side.
Okay. Okay. And then you have to save that as a custom field?
No.
No? Okay.
So I've added my checkbox. I'm just going to delete that one. Just click on it and click delete. So it's going to be delivered by check. Everything else looks good to go. Lead-based paint. Oh, for whatever reason, it looks like selling broker did not add as Harry Norman here. So I want to add a text field. So I'm going to add Harry Norman. So I'm just going to click add text field. I'm going to resize this to fit. I'll just type in Harry Norman. And I'm going to uncheck required field and make this read only. So that way it shows up when everyone goes to sign. So again, this is a quick way that you can double check all of your work. Then we have my seller's initials here. Scrolling down. Keep scrolling until we get to the special stipulations. Perfect. So I told you earlier that there's not a lot of space here, but one of the workarounds is that you could add a text box here. So I'm going to add a text box. So I'm just going to add that here. And I'm going to drag that to fill in the whole space. And I can start typing in more steps. So I have a ton here. Now what I can do is I can select all of the text that's in this box. And on the right-hand side, I can go to formatting and click on formatting. And then I can make the font size 7. So it's smaller and it will be able to fit more stipulations in that box. Now, this may not make you a favorite co-op agent because now there's going to be a ton of stipulations in tiny font, but it does allow you the opportunity to get them all in one place. And then I would also recommend that you uncheck required field and make this read only. Continuing to scroll through the document, we get to our client's signatures, double check those. And I told you earlier, I'll show you how to block out the contact information for my clients. So to do that, I'm going to come over to the standard fields and I'm going to click on markup tools, which looks like an icon of a pen. Click markup tools and then select line. And I'll come over and over the email address, I'm just going to drag and add a line. It'll default to red. Then I can come over to color. I can select black and I can update the thickness. I like to go to 10-point font. And then I can just kind of drag that black bar over the email address. And then similar to what I did with the text box earlier, I can just copy it. So copy, paste, and I can drag the second black bar over the other contact's information. And now those contact email addresses are blocked out. So scrolling down, see here, I have my signature and date signed. Everything is good to go. Before you send, you can always check a recipient preview. And this will show you what it's like for each one of your clients. And it'll show you an example of what it looks like on a desktop, a tablet, and a mobile phone. So if they're out and about, they can sign documents on the phone, but it'd probably be pretty hard to read. So I'm going to click X in the top right-hand corner. And now I'm going to send. So it's going to send these documents out for signature. Now remember, I set these up in a specific order, so it's going to go to Tony first before anyone else. So now it says waiting for others. And then to answer your question earlier, you can see here where it says need to sign, and it lets me know who I'm waiting on to sign this document here. So that's how you can check who hasn't yet signed a document.
Okay.
So I'm gonna open up my email because I want to go to, let me go to my KWFA Tech. And you'll see here, I have an email. It says, please DocuSign, 4578 Main Street. And then remember I added that private message for just Tony. Here's where that private message shows up. Please fill in all the fields. So I click review documents. Click agree to use electronic records and signatures, continue, and then start. So it's going to jump from the first required field, and then it'll ask to confirm signature. They can draw one, upload a different signature if they want, and click adopt and sign. And now it's going to stop at that first required field on the seller's property disclosure. So here I can fill in 2007. And now because I've stopped, it's more easy for me to come over here and I can just kind of click through and fill in the information. And just go through here. And now I'm not going to select all these, but I just want to show you what the experience will be like for your clients. Now, none of these fields are required. So info, HVAC, 8 years old. So you can see what it's like. I'm going to scroll down, seller's property disclosure, and then we can just check a bunch of these. All right. And then click on sign. And again, now I go to the community association disclosure and it's going to stop me here. So I can put HOA and then I can scroll up very easily and do, okay, we have a mandatory homeowners association. That's currently $1,000 and it's paid in 4 installments. And then I can fill in contact information, person's name, management company, name of company. I'm just like typing in information here. And it's that easy. Continue to scroll down. Special assessment. There is not a special assessment. You know, whatever these boxes are. And then initial, sign, sign. All right, we have our offer, sign, initial. And then if I scroll up, you can see here the special stipulations. And then here are the ones that I made 7-point font. So it shows up because I made it read only. So I come down here, you can see that the document, the email address is blacked out and click sign. And now once seller 1 has gone through and filled in all the information, finish is the only button they have available. So make sure your clients click finish. It's going to ask them if they want to create a DocuSign account, which we'll select no thank you. And then make sure your clients know that they have to get to this all done page before they're finished completely signing the document. And if they do not get to the you're all done page, that means they haven't selected finish. And that means the document will not be able to go on for signature to the next person. So now I'm going to go click open into my email for Pepper. So I'll just open up my personal email, which is what I used. And then I'll just open the wrong one. Here we go. You'll see the first option here is Nicholas Core, please DocuSign. And I scroll down. Here's the message to Tony and Pepper, but you see there's no private message that I sent to Tony. So Pepper will click on review documents. Agree, continue, start. Sign the listing agreement, and again, we'll confirm signature, adopt and sign. And now it just breezed past all the seller's property disclosure, but I want to scroll up because I want you to see that all the information that Tony filled in shows up for Pepper when she goes to sign. And this is important because this is something you can let seller 2 know, hey, take a moment to review the information to make sure that your co-seller filled it in correctly. because if anything is wrong, you could be held liable at closing or not close. So just double check everything, click sign, and the same thing for the community association disclosure. Scroll up, double check, make sure everything is good to go. $1,000. Here's the info. Click initial, sign, sign, initial, sign. Again, emails are blacked out, and then click finish. No, thank you. And now Pepper got the "you're all done." So now I will receive a message that says, please DocuSign 4578 listing agreement and property seller PSA. So I'll come here, click review documents, click continue, start, sign. Now this is the listing agreement, and I set it up so this is a required field for me to fill in. So I can go ahead and I can make this binding at 11 a.m. and automatically adds the date there of today, and then click fill in and then sign. And now I'm good to go, and click finish. I don't want to log in because I'm already logged in. And now I got the "you're all done," so I know that everything's good to go for DocuSign. So I want to point out one of the great features that I love about DocuSign is once everybody signs the document, DocuSign will send an email out to everybody with the completed forms attached. So you see, it now says completed, please DocuSign 4578 LSA PSA. And if I open that, here are those documents. So it just saves you one step of having to send that email to make sure that your clients have copies of all the documents. Send it to them automatically. So now if I go back into DocuSign, let me just fix this real fast. All right, I'll refresh my envelopes and it will show that it's completed. And when I go to the Documents tab, it's going to have signed versions of all those documents. So I scroll down because everything defaults into the Room Docs folder. You'll see we have all these documents here with the green check marks that say signed. Now I want to clean up my folders, so I'm going to select all the documents that go with my listing agreement. Select them all, and I'm going to click on Move. And I'm going to move them into my folders and active rooms, listing agreement, because I want to keep my listing agreement forms separate from my purchase and sale agreement. So you see here, I now have all my signed listing agreements in one place, and then I have my signed purchase and sale document down here. Now let's say you want to combine all these listing agreements and you want to send them directly to your client all as one document for simplicity. You may want to do this with the purchase and sale agreement. If you're going to send an offer over, you can combine everything. Select all the documents you want to combine, and then in the toolbar, roll your mouse over the icons until you get to combine. Click combine, and then you can give this a new name. So I'll do 4578 Main Street signed listing agreement, and then you can reorder them. So I want to have the listing agreement be first, so just click on it and drag it into the position that you want. So now that I have them in the correct position, click Save. The page will reload, and this single document will show up in the Room Docs folder, and now have my combined document. I can just click that and drag that into my listing documents folder. And if I want to send it to my clients, I'd recommend you select the document and then click download. You can send documents directly from within DocuSign, but to me, it's a lot easier if I just download it to my computer because it's less steps for them to have to click review document and then download. So now that we have all of our documents in DocuSign, we can start to add them to our opportunity to submit for compliance review. So I'm going to go back into Command. So now that we're going for our listing agreement, I can add the documents in a couple ways. One, I can click Add a File, so I can do it each file one by one. I will select Source of Documents as DocuSign, and it's going to pull up all of the documents. Now, because I created folders, I can select folders and just select the listing agreement folder, and it's going to make it a little bit easier to select the correct documents. Now it shows a list of all the documents in the folder, so you need to pay attention to make sure you're selecting the signed version of those documents. Because you see here, I have my exclusive seller listing agreement signed and then my exclusive seller listing agreement not signed. So you want to make sure you select the signed one and then click assign. And there we go. Now, because we are adding multiple documents, we can click attach multiple files right here. And this way we can just do it all at the same time. So again, we want to select DocuSign as our source of documents. And then I'll come down to my community association disclosure. And I scroll down to where it says community association disclosure signed. Select that. Seller's property disclosure. Scroll down to seller's property disclosure statement signed. Rawls Group affiliated marketing disclosure. And we'll select affiliated marketing signed. And then Rawls Group wire fraud. Wire fraud signed. And then click attach. So now we've attached all of our listing documents. Now, because we have a purchase and sale, I'll come to the under contract folder and I can add the purchase and sale document. Same way, add file, source of documents, DocuSign. And then I can just scroll down. Let's say root folder, it shows purchase and sale agreement signed. Select that and click assign. Perfect. Now, because this is a listing, let's say we go under contract, but for whatever reason, the buyer's financing falls through, and now we have to put it back on the market. You don't need to create a whole new opportunity for that. What you can do is in where it says under contract, there's a drop-down menu, and you can select add version, and I can make under contract version 2 and create new version. And now you'll see all of these documents are now blank. So there's no purchase and sale agreement here. So now I have a fresh slate of documents and I can resubmit once we go back under contract. And what's great is that if I ever needed to reference version 1, I can click under contract and there's that document there. So Command will still house all those documents for me. And then once everything is good to go, you're listed, you'd click this button, submit to MC, and that will submit to Lynn for review. You have to click submit to MC, otherwise Lynn will not have notification that there are documents for her to review. And then once they are reviewed, you will get a notification either up here from the bell with a red dot, and you should also get a notification from your Kelly app if you're signed in. Any questions on DocuSign? I know I kind of breezed through a lot of it. Any questions that you have right now?
I think okay.
All right. Well, if there are no questions, that is the DocuSign training for today. I went a little quick, so thank you for being patient. I'm going to send this so that way you get upload it to the YouTube channel, and then let me know what questions you have as you're starting to use DocuSign. I'm always here to answer any of them. Always feel free to give me a call or text message. Most questions we can usually get fixed or troubleshoot within just a minute or two.
Very good. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you. All right. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.